Such a buildup. I hope you're not disappointed. Oh, she's sweet. Now that's a partner. The Law of Success. There's a poem written by Walter Wintle, and it goes like this. If you think you're beaten, you are. If you think you dare not, you don't. If you'd like to win but think you can't, it's almost a cinch you won't. If you think you'll lose, you're lost. For out in the world we find success begins with a person's will. It's all in our state of mind. That's just a perfect reflection of the Science of Mind teaching. You know, researchers have found over the years that success begins with positive emotions, with positive attitude towards opening up to life, opening up to what life offers. And positive emotions improve our will, improve our life, improve our relationship. It improves our resilience to change. It improves our health. So why wouldn't we want to have positive emotions all the time? Because it's challenging being human beings in this world. But as our emotions increase, our positive emotions increase, it impacts all areas of our life. There's probably not much else in the world that makes such a big impact on our life as our emotions. And yet, what is success? Success is different for every one of you. Success could be cooking the very best apple pie, or it could be achieving a great score on a test, or excelling in any kind of like a triathlon or something. But sometimes success is very small, but yet very important to each one of us. And sometimes it's a prosperity, a love, or an area of prosperity that we want to be successful in, or maybe it's a relationship. So we have all kinds of goals, and some might be achieved in 1 minute, 1 hour, a month, or sometimes years. I know for people who have gone for a college degree later in life, that's a long goal. That takes quite a while to be successful, but the euphoria from achieving it lasts the rest of your life, doesn't it, Betty Lou? She's an expert at that. She's an expert at that. So our life is like a yardstick. And so wherever we are on the yardstick of life, because there's a beginning and a transition, we don't call it an end, but wherever you are in this yardstick, where are you in success, what you call success? What is success? Small, medium, large, doesn't matter. But what's important is what it means to you. Now, Napoleon Hill wrote a book many years ago called Think and Grow Rich. And he said that our words and emotions create vibrations. Well, we know that. They create an energy vibration in our body. And that those positive emotions affect every cell in our body. And those vibrations, if we can align them to the point of joy, a 3-letter word, joy, J-O-Y, to him that was the ultimate. If we could hold that feeling, that emotion of joy, it takes care of everything else. Everything else kind of lines up. Now that was his idea of what success is, finding joy in your life. So he felt holding that constant emotion was really important. Now I was looking up success on my favorite place, which is Google, and it included 3 words which I thought were different. Winner, well, we can understand that, running across the finish line. Triumph might be a triumph of running a race or doing something physically. But another word was supernova, and I thought, supernova? How did Google come up with that word? But I was excited because if you haven't read the paper recently, NASA's Voyager 1 spacecraft finally entered interstellar space, the way far out place, interstellar space. And so I thought, yay, that's success. And then I thought, or is it? Or is it? So I went on and I read further about Voyager 1 because I follow it every now and then on the internet, and I just love space expeditions. But Voyager 1 was launched in 1977. Most of us were alive at that time. Some weren't, but the goal of Voyager 1 was to reach Jupiter, which it did 2 years later. And then the next goal was to reach Saturn, which he did 2 years later. And so scientists were achieving these goals. They were being very successful, but what it is just like human beings, okay, we've been successful, now what? Now what are we going to do next? Well, as soon as they got to Saturn, they started looking around and they said, you know, Saturn's moon, Titan, has gas all around it. Maybe we should go see what's up with that. So they reprogrammed Voyager 1 to go over to Titan to check it out and study it, which they did. But an unexpected effect was, you know, everything has gravity going around. They got close to Titan, and it changed the trajectory of Voyager 1, and now it's headed out into no man's land, way out of the solar system. Is that a success? I don't know. Because they didn't know what was going to happen next. And so they studied all this, of course, good scientists do, and they felt that at some point, Voyager was going to be completely out of our solar system, and then what? They named this area Termination Shock. But the first good thing that happened when it started to leave our solar system is it looked back, they had it turn around and take a picture of our whole solar system. It was the first, they said it's the first family portrait we ever had. I love that. And they, the infamous words, the pale blue dot, that was part of the first family portrait. So that was successful, or was it? Because it kept on going. And they knew there must be an area out there that they labeled Termination Shock. So they labeled it, and then they waited. They had to wait 12 years for anything else to happen. And after entering what they called termination shock, they weren't sure what would happen, but they knew at some point it would be leaving our solar system. And so finally in 2012, it entered termination shock. And here's how they found out. Because Voyager 1 started being impacted by high energy particles that were cosmic rays coming from supernova explosions. How they figured that out, I don't know. But it started getting impacted by these cosmic rays. And at the same time, the solar winds created by our sun's energy were lowering. So they went, oh, increasing supernova cosmic rays attacks, lowering solar winds from the sun, that must be the area of termination shock. Success? I don't know. Because they don't know how long that area is. How long will it be in that area? So right now, the spacecraft is continuing to move through termination shock, and they're just not sure, so they're trying to set up new standards for this. Now, Voyager's communication system, it takes 17 hours for any communication to reach the pale blue dot of Earth. So that takes quite a long time, so you have to be very patient with these things. But it has a battery system, and scientists have figured out that the batteries are going to last till 2025. Now, what is success for the next 10 years? What is the next level of success for Voyager 1? So they're working on that. And I wanted to share this with you because I have great respect for scientists who come up with all this information. I have no idea how they do that. How would you even know a cosmic ray when you saw it? I wouldn't. And so sometimes they're surprised, and sometimes they're a little bit horrified. Oh my gosh, we wanted to just look at some gas, and now Voyager's headed off in a new direction. But they always come back like we do when we have something that is not successful or traumatic or anything in our life. We come back to center. We say there's got to be some good that comes out of this. What could be our next area or arena of success? In Science of Mind, we learn, we're good students of the Science of Mind, and we learn that when we have an experience that is not successful, that we don't go around moaning and groaning and whining too long. Otherwise, one of our ministers will get after us. But we set a new goal. We said, well, that didn't work out, but that's okay. We're going to reevaluate. We're going to take a new look at things. So why do we call it the law of success? That's an interesting part, because a law is a theoretical principle that shows up as an experience, and these experiences or products of what we theoretically put in motion show up. So we see the results. And if they are the same again and again and again and again, then that becomes a law, a theoretical law, the law of cause and effect, the law of success. So repeated experiments over many years of observation allow scientists to declare something a law. There is a law of success. And Ernest Holmes wrote that the fact that we're thinking beings and our creative mind receives our thought, we can't stop creating. That's not who we are. We're always creating something, and what we create depends on our thinking. We are thinking individuals. It's simply put, it's done unto us as we believe. So the law of success means when we're thinking success, when we're focused on success, we achieve success in one way, shape, or form. So the focus of our mind is the most important thing, which you've heard time and time again here. So when it comes to using the law, what we find, what researchers find, is that successful people think about success. Should be no surprise. But what that subtle something is, that essence of our thinking, it creates an atmosphere of confidence and strength. So that whatever appears not to be successful, we think, okay, there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a better way. There's always an answer. We keep on going. So when we are dealing with this intelligence that's called the attractor factor, it's another good name for success, when we're attracting that experience in our life because we're focused on success, we really recognize the importance of being mindful, being the guardian of our mind. We are the result of God's thinking. We are the result of God's self-contemplation. And just like God's result of self-contemplation, our lives are the result of our contemplation. You see, it's a thread. It's a thread that just goes through all of us. And so it works because it's its nature to work. It's its nature to work. So when we want something, it's establishing the mental equivalent in our mind to have that thing, that experience, that emotion. So why is it important that I'm talking to you about this? Well, Sue and I accepted the position of interim co-pastors in June 2012, and we sat down with the other 3 staff ministers. I call us the Fab Five. And we said, okay, what are our goals during this interim period? Number 1, don't rock the boat, because everybody's had enough change for the last few years. Don't rock the boat, maintain an even keel, so to speak. And for continuity, we limited the Sunday speakers to the Fab Five. Now, you've noticed that. We've increased the class offerings, and we've maintained, our goal was to maintain membership and revenue because the bills still have to be paid. So last month, the congregation voted for a new pastor, and we could look back and say we were 100% successful. And yet one person was telling one of the candidates, this church is stuck. And we thought, it is. Because we were going to maintain the status quo, don't rock the boat, keep the speakers the same, because we wanted continuity for the center. We wanted it to feel solid, even though we were in this interim period. So based on our goals, we were successful. But based on some other goals, it was like, man, we're stuck. What are we going to do? Hooray for a new pastor. We're going to have a wonderful experience. And Sue and I were prepared to clean out our desks and go into termination shock. And that's how it felt, didn't it? It was like, we don't know who this person's going to be. How's it going to be? And so there was a little termination shock going in there. But the real shock was when you voted for the pastor, and she got 76% of the vote, and then she said, no, thank you. Well, we went into reverse termination shock. And it's like, okay, so this is our challenge. And we're going to continue in this role. But it's time to set new success criteria. We don't want people to feel stuck. Like NASA, we have to set new goals. We have to set a new path. We have to set a new destination. And I'm happy to say, so far, our batteries are fully charged, but they're not lifetime batteries. So while Voyager may go till 2025, don't count on us for 2025. But we know something higher and better is going to happen, so that's not an issue. But we're really taking to heart the answers that we've been receiving to the question, what is it that you were expecting to get from that new minister. And we've had pages of responses, and we're really taking it to heart and using it and visioning. And so just a couple changes. We've invited Dr. James Golden to come and speak on a Sunday. We've, won't be till February, but that's okay, it's coming. We've invited Dr. Kim Kaiser, who's the head of the Holmes Institute in Santa Rosa. He's coming October 6th. He was a Buddhist for many years. He's a fascinating person, and we're just really excited about having him come. We're looking to other faith ministers in our community. Chris Kerrigan with the River Oaks Sangha is going to be speaking sometime in the new year. So we're opening it up, and it feels really good. It feels fresh, and we don't feel like we have to, it's going to tip anything sideways or make any waves or anything. And we're looking at improvements, not so much to the 9 o'clock, although we just did with where the reading went in the scheme of things. We're trying to smooth it out. But at the 10:30, we're going to have not so much up and down with the choir. The choir is just going to come up and do their thing, and we've moved around some other things to kind of fine-tune it a little bit, spiff it up. You know, we're not going to be Agape, the Agape Center where Reverend Coca was going to come from, but we can be more polished. We can be more professional. So what about you? Where might you be stuck? Where might you need a little polishing? Where might you need another goal, a new goal? Maybe the last one went haywire and it's time to change direction, time to look very deeply at where you're going this year and next. 2014 is coming up so soon, I just can't even imagine. It's just an amazing thing to think about. So I invite you to think about, what do you do with your extra spare time? Do you think about losing something or loss, or are you depressed about the world? Where are you spending that precious, precious time? Because it's like the yardstick. Our life begins and we're going to transition. We only have so much time. What are you doing with that time? And I invite you, if it's not based on success or achievement or peace, harmony, any of those qualities of God, I invite you to take a look at that. We've just started a whole variety of classes. It seems like class overload at times, but we started a variety of classes because that's something different for you. A lot of options, because it's in classes where you learn these principles, because there's a lot of them, believe me. The law of success, the law of this, the law of that, the law of attraction, all these things. And they're important to know. And these principles are at work in our life all the time, even if we don't pay attention to them. So that's why classes are important. I am in awe of people in class that go, you know, I read Creative Thought magazine, and those prayers, they're weird. And then you tell them it's a 5-step process that Ernest Holmes figured out was the most effective way to pray, and they go, why didn't you tell me that? Well, we've tried, but sometimes we aren't open. Sometimes we aren't aware. Sometimes we aren't open to new ideas and new ways of understanding things. So if we're dwelling on limitation, I ask you to think about Voyager 1. Voyager 1 was just supposed to go to Jupiter, then Saturn. But now look at the great gifts it's given us and all the scientists that go along with that. The immensity of space. When Jupiter 1 reaches a supernova, I mean, what's that going to be like? That's going to be phenomenal. So we believe that the self-contemplation of God created us, and our self-contemplations create our life. So I invite you to move forward in that arena, in whatever arena you have. We all have those little places. For me, it might be cleaning out the garage one day, or I did clean out the bathroom drawers. That was good. That was one of my promises in my class, The Power of Decision. You know, and it just felt really good. It felt freer, open, more. I just knew it was good. You didn't have to open the drawer to know it was good. So there are all these little places that we can improve. When I was a teenager, I all of a sudden found books on positive thinking, and the book Success Through a Positive Mental Attitude was one of my favorites, and then another one was Tough Times Don't Last, but Tough People Do. And I became a little tough person in trying to determine my life. And it all came down to these two little words, I can. I can. Now here we say I choose, but when I choose, I also know I can. So those two little words can make a big difference if you have that little place in your life where you want to be successful, where you want to add to that joy, that wholeness, that joy of feeling alive with the power and the presence of the One. So this I can attitude directs our energy, and it takes us to an area where we open up to the intuitive nature of God, where we open up to our subconscious mind, where we hear those words that we've been oblivious to before because our mind's been chattering too much. So in this week, I encourage you to take time. Spend some time with your mind. Spend some time with the I can attitude. Spend some time fine-tuning these success stories. What is it you want to be successful at? Because I know the truth is you can. So join me in a prayer for that. Like the Voyager 1 spacecraft, I know I can. I can be a success through the power and the presence of God in my life. Through maintaining a creative mind that no matter when it gets taken off track can always come back to that place of knowing that I can. The I can attitude is a powerful attitude, and I accept it for myself and everyone here, in whatever part of life you want to use that power. I know for myself and for you joy, immense joy in just knowing you can. The knowing is the beginning, and then we have the initiative, and then we do the work. We do whatever it takes to achieve that, whether it's cleaning the garage or riding a bike for 100 miles. Who knows what your success level or your goal is. But I know with that I can attitude and joy in your heart, it's achievable easily and with grace. So today I'm filled with thanksgiving, filled with the joy of knowing it is so. As God created us and we create our own life, it is beautiful, it is perfect, it is filled with the law of love, the law of gratitude, and most of all, the love of all that is. Thank you, Spirit, and so it is.
Excited to introduce Reverend Mary, and she's going to speak to us on this law of success. Thank you, Mary.
Kern, Jill, there's a flower here for you. So sweet. The law of success. First, we have to figure out what it is, don't we? What is success? It might be best explained by a poem written by Walter Wintle. If you think you're beaten, you are. If you think you dare not, you don't. If you'd like to win but think you can't, it's almost a cinch you won't. If you think you'll lose, you've lost. For out in the world we find success begins with a person's will. It's all in our state of mind. Now here in this philosophy, the science of mind, we know that to be true. But researchers have also found this to be true over the years. Success begins with positive emotions. And what happens is that opens us up to a flow of other ideas when we're feeling positive and we know the good is happening in life. It opens us up to other ideas, and it improves our resilience to handle anything that comes along that is less than the good or looks like it's less than the good. It helps us adapt to stress. We can all use a bit of that in our lives, and it enhances our relationships. Who wants to be in a relationship with someone who's an old humbug, you know? We want someone who's uplifted, feels positive about the day, no matter what might appear to be happening. And extra laughs over here. Okay. And it also improves our physical health. I know when I'm happy, I can feel every cell in my body is just celebrating. It's like, thank goodness, let go of the stress, let go of the worry. Let's just have a great day. And when your body feels like that, it's a wonderful thing. You can feel it in the whole aura of your day. And yet every one of you defines success differently. What does it mean to you? It might be baking the best apple pie tomorrow. It might be cleaning out the garage. It might be reading a book that you've been wanting to read but you haven't. It could be a million different things. Success to each one of us is different, and we have many different levels of success. For some, it may be an artistic ability, wanting to paint a better picture or take a better photograph. So all of this depends also on timing. You know, we say there is no time in the universe, but as human beings, there's time. And we have to just remember that. We have, if I had a yardstick here, it would be, I'm born here and I make my transition into another dimension there. Some people call it death, but we know it's just a transition. But we have this yardstick of time. And if there's something special we want to accomplish, every time we wait, the longer we wait, the less time there is. So this is why I encourage you to think about success. What's really important now? I find as I get older, the things that I thought I wanted, like a doctorate, don't need that. What would it do for me now? Wouldn't impress anybody. I'm old. Get a doctorate. Get a doctorate when you're old. You go, okay, well, could have done that 30 years ago. So timing makes a big difference on what we look at as success. There's a book that I read when I was 16 by Napoleon Hill called Think and Grow Rich. And he was really in tune with what is in our mind is what we're going to experience in our life. There are a lot of books like that in the 60s, and I was really glad to find those because it really made me think about what I really wanted in life. I was just a happy space cadet when I was in my teenage years. I mean, every day was just a day. So it was good to have something to challenge me to think about, well, what could I do? What could I do? Because my mother kept saying, you're going to be the best secretary there was because you're not going to college. Because for her, that was success. And I didn't know any better, so I thought, okay, I'll do that. And then somewhere along the line, my positive thinking created this idea to go to college. And so it's an amazing thing how that can happen. Something that didn't seem possible before can now seem possible. I was going to my favorite place on the internet yesterday, Google, and I Googled success. And I was interested in 3 words that came up that I thought, well, that's a different way of putting it. Winner was one word. Well, winner has a lot of different attributes to it. Triumph. Well, I don't think of success as triumph exactly, but the last word was supernova. Now, I could relate to supernova, and I'll tell you why. I just read this great article about Voyager 1, NASA's Voyager 1, the spacecraft. Tracy's shaking her head. I know, I love this stuff. So Voyager 1 finally entered interstellar space. There was this big article in the paper, and I thought, I gotta know more, because that's success, isn't it? Or is it? So I had to know more. So I went to the internet and pulled up all these articles, and here's an interesting story. Voyager 1 was launched in 1977. Now, its success was to go to Jupiter, which it did 2 years later. Then the next success was to go to Saturn, which it did 2 years later. And so the researchers and scientists are going, well, been there, done that. Now what are we going to do? But they looked at Titan, one of the moons of Saturn, and they said, there's all this gas around Titan. Let's go check that out. So they re-coordinated Voyager to go over by Titan so they could check that out. And I'm making a simplistic thing out of this because I don't know what they found, and I probably couldn't explain it anyway. But so they adjusted the coordinates to go over to Titan. But what they didn't realize immediately was when they adjusted the coordinates, the reflection of gravity on Voyager 1 kicked it off in a whole new trajectory to go into interstellar space, like beyond the beyond. Success? I think somebody would say, like Sue does when we have a problem, yikes! We didn't mean for that to happen. So there goes Voyager off into interstellar space. Well, they didn't know what was going to happen. I mean, Voyager's just this thing with this little battery. So it's going off into interstellar space, and so, well, we've got to come up with some new goals so that we can prove this is successful, i.e. so we can get more money for the program. You know that. We got to have success stories. Well, once Voyager 1 exited our solar system, scientists announced Voyager 1 took the first family photo of our solar system, all the planets, everything in the sun. And this is when that infamous description, the pale blue dot, showed up, when they took this family photo of our solar system. But Voyager didn't stop there because it's on this trajectory. It keeps going, and they're like, well, we better think of what might happen so we can be successful when it does happen. So they created, I'm making a simplistic story about this, but you can imagine the horror of NASA scientists going, there it goes. When's it going to stop? I don't know. So they created this place in their idea where after it left the solar system, it would enter an area called termination shock. Because it would be out of our solar system. It would be terminating its life in our solar system, and it would be a shock. It's an interesting word, termination shock. So they decided that termination shock is a place where the influence of our wind, the solar wind from our sun, would stop having much of an effect on Voyager 1. But they didn't know what would replace that. So is it just going to hang there, or what's going to happen? It took 12 years later for them to see what happened. In 2012, Voyager 1 started having less effect from the solar wind, but it started having a lot of particles hitting it from these cosmic rays from supernova explosions. Now, you don't know how far those are. So it entered this area where less influenced by our sun and the solar winds and more influenced by cosmic rays from supernova explosions. Is that a success? I don't know, because we don't know how long it's going to stay in the area of terminator shock. So they're going to come up with some more answers, some more strategies, some more goals, because right now the Voyager 1 is still communicating with NASA. But it takes 17 hours for any communication to reach the pale blue dot, to reach Earth. So 17 hours is a long time. But then they had to wait for 12 years for this shift to occur so they could say, aha, it's definitely leaving our solar system. Now, the nice thing is the battery pack on Voyager 1 is going to last till 2025. So that's a lot longer, and they're going to have to come up with some ideas of what's going to happen here to call it a success and keep getting funded. So it's exciting, but I also can feel there's some yipes there that, oh my gosh, what might happen next? The nice thing is it's got a big recording on it, the sound of a human voice, the sound of a baby crying, the alphabet, all kinds of history and stuff. So if all of a sudden Voyager 1 takes a picture of some extraterrestrials coming to check it out, we'll know. So that could be real exciting, or not. I wanted to share that because I have a lot of respect for scientists who come up with this. I mean, to even shoot off a spacecraft that goes to Jupiter, the calculations must be amazing. So I have a lot of respect for them. And sometimes they're surprised and sometimes they're not, or sometimes they're like, oh my God, what happened? But it's like us, you know, when things happen to us and we go, yipes, or oh my God, didn't expect that to happen. If we're in the science of mind teaching, we know, okay, whine a little bit, but don't get stuck there. Don't get stuck whining and complaining. Create a new goal, create a new area that you want to learn about or become or feel or whatever. Create a new expectation that is greater than what you previously expected. Focus your mind on it. Focus your day on it. Don't just whine and complain. You won't get along too well with us if you do that for very long around here, because we will gladly remind you, we're talking about a law. We call it a law, but what's a law of success? Well, it's a scientific principle, theoretical, because you don't see these things. It's a principle that a particular action will always result in a particular outcome. So you do this enough hundreds of thousands of times, they can call it a law. You never see it. You see what begins and you see what ends. And so we have to extrapolate and say the law of success. So the law of success often means that people are thinking about success. If we're thinking about failure, how in the world could we expect success? It's an interesting thing because how often we get caught up in the negative thinking of the world. It's never going to happen this way. It's never going to happen that way. It's never, never. That's not true, because we are created in the mind of God for creative thoughts, to always move forward. Now, in this teaching, the Science of Mind teachings, we can't stop creating because we've already put in our subconscious mind a lot of history. Hopefully, it's mostly positive history. Like a lot of people that I see over the years come about a certain issue when we find that they're still believing they're not worthy of XYZ. They're not worthy of it. That was implanted long ago. And so what our job is to show that there's a law of worthiness. There is a law that you, as a creation of the One, are totally worthy of whatever it is you want in your life. What we believe is that God, before the Big Bang, wanted to understand itself. And so, bang, created the universe and all in it, so it could understand itself. But at the same time gave every one of us that same creative power to create our life experiences. So it's that thread. It's that thread that comes from long ago. And it's still alive and well in you and will go on with you in your soul forever. So when it comes to using the law, we want to fill our time with successful thoughts. How do you spend your time during the day? Do you spend it watching bad stories on TV or there's so much that we can immerse ourselves in that is not life-affirming. Where do we spend our time? Because when we learn to attract success, it's a lot of fun, believe me. It's a lot of fun. But the responsibility rests with us, because the law is the law. It's always operating. What we put in our subconscious mind is like planting a seed in the soil. We're watering it every time we think those good thoughts, and it grows into that experience. Just like planting an acorn seed grows into an acorn tree. It wouldn't grow into anything else. We've planted that seed. We've watered it. We've nurtured it. We've nurtured it with our thoughts. That's how successful people become successful, because when they're thinking that way, they know, what am I watering? What am I tending to today that's going to keep me on that trajectory of success? Well, why is it important to talk about this? Well, last May, when our previous ministers, May 2012, when our previous ministers retired, Sue and I got together with our other 3 staff ministers. I call us the Fab Five. And we talked about continuing being the interim co-pastors. The other 3 said, no, you 2 do it. We're going to support you. We're all going to make this work. And so the goals were this: don't rock the boat, keep us on an even keel, maintain that even keel. So for continuity, we only let one of the 5 of us speak, if you didn't notice that. Sue and I predominantly, but the others fill in when we can. Increase class offerings. Most importantly, maintain our membership, but also important, maintain our revenue, because the bills have to be paid. So last month, the congregation voted for the new pastor, and we were packing our desks up. And we said, we have been 100% successful based on what our goals were a year ago. No doubt about it. And that showed itself when one of our members told one of the candidates, you know, we really are looking forward to a new minister because we feel stuck around here. And I would say, yeah, because we've been continuing with don't rock the boat, maintain an even keel, have the same 5 people speaking, don't go too crazy, maintain membership and revenue. And yeah, that does feel stuck. Were we successful? Yes. Were we successful for that person and how they were feeling about a new minister? No, it was like, man, that was boring. But it brought us to today. So last month, when the congregation voted, Sue and I were so excited, and we were headed for the area of termination shock. And it backfired. And 76% of you voted, and she turned us down. And that was a shock. Now, is that success? Well, in God's eyes. We just have to say, in God's eyes, it's all unfolding perfectly. And so we met again, and Sue and I decided, okay, we're going to continue in this role, but it's time to establish new success criteria. Time to rock the boat a little bit. Yeah. So we're going to establish some new goals for the voyage ahead of us. Now, Sue and I have our batteries, which are fully charged at the moment, like Voyager. But not like Voyager. I don't expect they'll last to 2025. So we're going to be on this new voyage, and we don't all know where it's going to be, so we're confident it's all going to work out. And we're analyzing all the resources that we have. And one of the questions we have put out to you several times is, what was it you wanted from Reverend Coco? What was it you expected? What was the juice? What was it? And we have pages of responses, thank you. And so we're looking at that, we're visioning with that, we're trying to figure out how can we shift, mix things up a little bit. You know, even having the choir come up without being announced, that's a little change. We're trying to smooth things out. Having our reading in between music, trying to smooth things out. We'll be looking at a lot of things. We're opening up Sundays to outside speakers. Dr. James Golden will be one of them. The next outside speaker I am so thrilled about will be October 6th, and it's Dr. Kim Kaiser from the Holmes Institute in Santa Rosa. Brilliant man. Brilliant man. I'm so excited about this because at one time he was a Buddhist for like 6 years before he found Science of Mind and became a Science of Mind minister. So he's going to have a whole different perspective. I'm just real excited about him coming. So those are a few things that we're looking at. We've already started offering more classes, a whole array of classes, that there's got to be one that would be of interest to you because the teachers, some of the teachers are new and the material is new, and that is where you really learn how to implement the law of success. So there's a lot of good things coming up from us here in the center, trying to juice it up a bit. Maybe, I don't know about that agape energy, but we're going to be doing the best we can. And that'll be that. But what about you? What about you? What does success in your life mean? The choir, success, awesome. Music, beautiful. But there's some more music to play in the future. What does success mean? What does it mean to you in your work or your relationships or just how you live in your home, how you enjoy or relate to the community? Are you focused on limitation, or are you focused on unlimited awareness of what's out there for you? I know when I finally open up, take some time and sit down and say, okay, Spirit, what do I need to know today? And I really listen deeply. Often I'm very surprised at what I hear, like, oh, darn, I forgot about that. You know that feeling like, wake up, Mary. Wake up to your greater good. So I invite you to think about that. What do you do with your spare time? Are you inviting good, or are you pervading the current culture of negativity? As a human being, we deal in time. And I like to say there's all the time in the world, but you know, we were born and we will move on. So where you want to call success in your life will be how you use your time in the next days, weeks, months, and years. Dwelling on limitation is really not helpful, and you know that, but it's sometimes habitual and addictive in society. So if you find yourself dwelling on limitation or things aren't going to be getting any better in the world, go out and stare at the stars. Go out and think of Voyager. Think of Voyager outside our solar system, looking back and seeing this pale blue dot of love. That's where we are. You know, that opens up a whole new level of awareness. Because the self-contemplation of God created us, and we, in our self-contemplation, create our experiences. And it's the nature of the universe to move forward, continue to expand and grow. You know, there's thousands of books on the law of success. And when I got this topic, I thought, oh boy, okay, what you think of, you'll experience. It is done unto you as you believe. But it's so much more than that. It's so much more than that. You know, the book I first read, Success Through a Positive Mental Attitude, was a real eye-opener because it gave a whole lot of stories of people who did that. And then I read a book, Tough Times Don't Last, but Tough People Do. And that carried me through a lot in my life, a lot in my career. But it can all be summed up in two little words: I can. I can. I can move beyond where I am now. I can deal with the fact of wildfire. I can deal with the fact that everything's impermanent, because everything is. It doesn't mean I don't hurt. It doesn't mean I don't cry or I'm sad. But I can find a way to move forward in life. So the person who thinks they can, just like that poem. That's who you are. That's who I am. So is success on your mind? Know the truth today. It is who you are. You've been successful to this point. You're here, aren't you? You're here. That in itself is success. So join me in embedding this in our subconscious mind. You know, as I look at this flower here, I'm not sure. Luke, did you put this here? No, someone. It's so beautiful and has such a great aroma. And you know, just like a flower, it was put in the ground as a seed, and it's grown into a flower, and it's by about 2 o'clock, it's not going to be looking too good. And that's the time of the life of a flower. And our time is so precious. We have this precious human body and this precious life. And so join with me now in knowing that this precious day is one of many. And it's one of many because we've been given this gift from the divine intelligence that we call God, Big Sweetie, the divine, whatever we want. And we know that as these precious human beings, when we focus our mind on the positive aspects of life, on the success we want to have, whether it's small, medium, or large, or no matter what we think of as success, that as we put that in mind, the universe always says yes. That's the law. The universe always says yes. We don't always know the exact outcome, but we know it is good, and we know it is successful. It is the law. And so this law really sets us free. It sets us free from the need to even think about dwelling on the negative. It sets us free from worrying about wars and fires and all these things. It sets us free because we are always protected. We are always loved. We are always held in the loving arms of the One. This is who we are. So anything that comes into our experience, we know if we want it better, we know we can. We can. We can. This is the gift of being a precious human being. It's the gift of this teaching, and it's the gift that keeps on giving, and we are grateful, and so it is. So it is.